Hello, testing, making sure we're up here. Let me put my light on a little bit. Get a little light in my room. Um, how's everybody doing today? Um, Ray here, uh, going live. It's been a while. I didn't go live at all last semester because I've been slammed, absolutely slammed with work. Um, but I've been getting a question for the all last semester, asked this probably 300 times. And I swear I'm getting like 3 to 10 messages per week since the end of December, since January started, asking me, should I do an ID boot camp and which one should I do? Mostly from prospective teachers looking to do a career change. And I get this question a lot, and I just want to kind of go on record, I guess, or get like a video out there that I can just send to people. I didn't want to create just a video about this. I just wanted to really just do a live session, just so I can kind of get my thoughts out there about this topic. Because a bunch of people keep asking me about it. And yeah, so they keep asking me. Um, so just to let you all know, kind of if you don't know who I am or what I do in the field, I've been in the field since over 20 years now. I literally started my master's in instructional design at Bloomsburg in like 2001. And I've been in the field ever since. I have worked professionally in corporate. I have worked as a consultant. I've been a consultant for higher ed, corporate, government, K to 12. I have my own consulting firm right now that I've been running since 2017. We do projects for nonprofits, corporate, and government places. I've got contractors that work for me. And I've been a professor in an instructional design program since 2010. I'm going on year 14 of being professor, 13 at the college I'm in. My career as a professor has kind of transitioned from instructional design more to like esports, and I'm working on like game design and stuff. I still teach it in an ID class, but I'm not really as much in the field teaching wise as I was. But I keep getting this question over and over again about these boot camps. And I just want to kind of talk about it and talk about boot camps and what I think about them and should you do one or not. So the first question about should you do it and what are my thoughts, just to kind of let you all know, I've never done any of these boot camps before. I've never done an instructional design boot camp. So if you ask me, hey, I'm looking at such and such boot camp, do you recommend it? I don't know. I'm not going to tell you yes or no whether you should do like XYZ boot camp or not because I haven't done it personally, so I can't speak to it. I can go online and search the boot camp and tell you all the information I find online about it, but if I haven't done XYZ's boot camp, I cannot tell you whether you should join it or not. What I can do is I can tell you what to look for if you are going to do a boot camp and what ask you what you expect to get out of it and things like that. So that's what I want to kind of, someone said hello, but that's what I kind of want to start out with is if you were going to do this, why would you do it? What do you expect to get out of it? And what are your goals? Rather than ask yourself, or ask me or ask someone else, should I do this boot camp? If they haven't done it themselves, they cannot answer that question. I can't tell you if you should do this person's boot camp or not. I don't even know that person. I cannot tell you if you should do their boot camp or not. What I can tell you is that I've read a lot of things online, reviews of the different boot camps on like Reddit and LinkedIn and Facebook, and I see all the discussions about them. I have talked to a number of hiring managers. I actually did for part of my program, we did a survey of 30 some different hiring managers at the end of last fall that I got to hear from and talk to about this topic. So I've talked to a number of people out in the field about the candidates they're getting from these boot camps and what their expectations are from as a hiring manager. So let me just talk a little bit about all that stuff kind of wrapped into one. So first of all, don't ask me about a specific boot camp. I'm not going to give you an answer. I don't know. It's kind of like when people also ask me like, should I go to this such and such college for their program? And I'm just like, I didn't go to their college. I can't answer that if they have like a good master's or not. I can tell you the ones I went through and what they were like and what mine's like, but I don't really do that recommending stuff. So the first thing I'll tell you is that if you're considering a boot camp, I would ask you, why are you considering it? Like, what are your goals? What are you looking for out of this? If your goal is to gain knowledge, I would never tell someone not to do things that are going to cause them to gain knowledge. Like, I'm all for learning, and I want to tell people to go like learn a lot and go gain knowledge, go become smarter, go, I love school personally. It's why I teach in school. I love learning. I wish I was like getting more certificates and masters and stuff like that. But there are some things I've seen and heard about these boot camps. Some of them that there are some concerning things, but really I would just tell you what to look for in a good boot camp. So the first thing I would ask you you know, is the ROI of the boot camp there? What I mean is like, how much does it cost and what does it get you? So if someone were to tell me I'm just making this up. I'm going through a 4-week boot camp and the end goal is for me to change careers and get a job. Um, I would probably be a little concerned about that. And the reason I'd be concerned about that is not the promise of the boot camp telling me I'm getting a job, but the fact that if someone who doesn't know anything about a field can get this job in 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks, I'd probably be a little concerned that if I do get that job, I'm probably pretty expendable and replaceable. And with the technology that I'm seeing in AI right now, like that person that gets that job is going to be those are going to be the ones that get replaced really quick. If I can teach someone in 4 weeks how to do your job, you're pretty replaceable. I can probably teach an 18-year-old kid how to do it. And I'd be a little concerned about that. So I think if that's the end goal, I get a little concerned when I start hearing that kind of talk from people. Makes me a little concerned. But if I was investigating and looking at these boot camps and trying to figure out what I would do, one of the first things I do is look at who's teaching the classes. I will go look at all their resumes. Have they worked in the field? Do they have first of all, like, do they have education in the field? And have they worked in the field? What kind of companies have they worked for and for how long? One of the things I say the same thing when people are going to look at like a master's program or something. Like, look, if your goal is to go into corporate, find someone who's actually worked in corporate and not just worked there, but has shown like that they've done well in corporate. What do I mean by that? I look at their resume and see like, did they work for one company and show like a string of promotions at that company? Because that tells you that this person worked for someone and actually was liked a lot at that company. So that would be the first thing I would do is I would look at the resume and say, who is teaching this? What have they really done? That would be like the first thing that I would do, because I think that's super important, because you don't want someone teaching you that hasn't done it themselves. It's the same thing I say when people say like, what master's program should I go to? I say, well, go look at the professors. If your goal is to be a researcher, go to a program where the professors have experience creating good research. Or if your goal is to go into corporate, find a program that actually has instructional designers who have been in corporate and are still there. Because that's another thing you got to think about. If you're being taught by someone who's no longer doing it, like, when did they last do it? Because I can tell you what, like, my stories from 20 years ago when I was in corporate are way different than the ones I have from my current consulting firm. Like, I can't like keep recycling those stories. Like, the world has changed a lot. The technology's changed. What we're doing in ID, the way we even, talk to people has changed. So like, my stories from 20 years ago, while some of them are cool and I still tell them in my classes, I have a bunch of new ones and I have to like keep up with that. So if someone says they worked in corporate 10 years ago, I don't know that their things are exactly the same. Next thing I would ask is, what are your real expectations of this? So what I mean by that is, like, if your goal is to get a new job, is this really going to get me that? And I say that because when I talk to hiring managers, one of the things they told me was that while they love people going out and getting education, they were very weary of people who just all of a sudden decided to change a career, went through like a 6, 8 week boot camp and were applying to new jobs because they weren't sure they were really invested in the field, and they weren't really sure what their background knowledge was. Like they didn't really do anything but try to go for this full-time jobs. There was a little concern there from some of the hiring managers. I think one of the biggest things I thought of, I did look at some of the boot camps out there and looked at their pricing, and it was quite a bit of money. I do see that there are a few free ones out there, and there are tons and tons of free resources. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like, what is the ROI? Is it worth it for you? I think that if your goal is just to get a job and you're not looking to like get something to add to your resume, because I don't know that putting a boot camp on your resume actually helps. In fact, if you go through certain ones, I've talked to hiring managers, I won't name those specific boot camps, but I know there are ones out there that if you write them on your resume, it could actually kind of hurt your chances of getting a job. Because some of those hiring managers have had bad experiences with that specific boot camp. So um, you have to almost be careful. So I ask you, like, what is the ROI? So if your goal is to learn a specific piece of software, like you want to learn Articulate, that's your goal. I guess my question is, what is stopping you just from going to YouTube? Like, why? I don't even know why you need a class for that. I can teach someone Articulate storyline in 3 hours, 2 hours. I can teach them the basics of Articulate story. I can teach them enough of it that they can go through and actually create a whole piece of software, like a whole portfolio with it. I mean, they can create the basics. They can create some nice looking stuff. So, like, I guess if that's your goal to learn a piece of software, like, I would just probably tell people to go learn YouTube, like, go on YouTube or whatever. If you're not familiar, you can go to LinkedIn Learning and you can use that. I've had some mixed. First of all, you can probably get LinkedIn Learning from free from your local library, so check into that. I've used LinkedIn Learning before, and it's hit or miss whether the videos are good or not, especially in instructional design. I've had a few of the ID videos that I was not impressed with that had some misinformation in them. So I'm a little hesitant to always want to use them, but to learn software, I think that it's pretty good if that's your goal. I think if you're looking to put education on your resume, I would probably tell you to spend the same amount of money at somewhere accredited that you can actually put on your resume. So if you're going to spend like, I don't know, thousands of dollars, spend it on something that goes on your resume. Otherwise, I would just probably do it for free. I think that if your goal is to just continue to learn, like you're on a learning journey and you're continuing to learn, I think that a boot camp could be a great option for you. As long as you look it up. I know I've got some friends who are teaching in some of the boot camps, and it seems like they're good. Like they're probably doing like some great stuff. So I hate like even lumping all things together just because I've heard some rumors of some bad ones and some bad practices out there, because there are some good ones and some good practices out there. So it's really tough. It's more about just like you doing the research. Like type in this boot camp and scam and see what comes up. On Google, you see like a bunch of people starting to complain about something, like there's probably a reason for that. So I would tell you to just look at that, look it up, see what's out there. But those are some of my basic thoughts about these ID boot camps. I haven't been through one, so I can't like tell you what one's like because I just haven't done it. I don't have time to do it. I'm not planning on doing it. I don't see how it would help me in any way, other than to be able to talk about that specific one, which I don't even want to do. Like, just go do your own research. Google search that one and search, is it good? Is it scammy? That kind of thing. I mean, if there are crazy promises, like I've heard some of them are promising people like 100K salaries and stuff like that. I can tell you, I have put so many students through from student with internship experience to company that 6-figure salaries in our field are far and few between, but they are out there. I've had students start at six figures, but generally those students that started at six figures, um, they weren't just e-learning developers. They were full IDs doing a bunch of stuff. And a lot of them had like 10 years of very similar like corporate experience in something else. But I've seen it. I mean, they've gotten it. I've seen students go from their internship to a 100K salary. So it does happen. But in general, you're probably looking at like in the 70s. And another thing I can tell you is, we have this thing in our field that is what's it called? Oh, survivor bias. And basically what that means is we tend to, I don't know why our field is like this, but we hear from the people who were successful and not the people that weren't successful. So what does that mean? That means like you might hear like this person got a 100K salary, but what you don't hear is that for every one person that got that 100K salary, there was 10,000 people who did not get the 100K salary. And we hear this survivor bias in our field where we only hear from the one person and we think that can be me. It's like saying, well, I can play the lottery and get the jackpot too. So there's this survivor bias element that we see in our field a lot, and I'm not quite sure why it exists, but it's there. So yeah, we got that. But my overall advice is just figure out what your goals are, look up, see who's teaching this, and figure out if it's something that's worth your while or not. I can tell you that the field has significantly changed in the last 4 to 6 months. So, as we had COVID hit, when COVID first hit in March, April 2020, by like May 2020, I couldn't put my phone down because I was getting calls from every company in the world saying, we need your students, we need your students, we need your, like, they were like begging for employees to do online learning stuff. So like when I say the survivor bias, like buyership, survivor bias, it really impacts what we see. Like over the last 2 years, there was this point where companies were pretty much hiring anyone they could because they didn't have a choice. There was not enough employees. There was greater demand than need. I mean, yeah, greater need than people out there, greater demand than what we actually had. So a lot of what you hear with people just going out and kind of getting a job really quick and easy was because we didn't have enough people. However, over the last few months, that's changed starting this fall. So like starting in August of 2022, now we're in 2023. That's changed significantly to the point where I don't know that I've gotten any phone calls in January from companies. And I can tell you that like my consulting firm, like we were doing a bunch of projects. We were doing 5 projects last summer. And right now we're on hold for all 5 of those projects are on pause. And then we have several other projects that we have proposals out there for that they're like waiting to see if they're going to get approved for them. So like, the field has went through this. We needed to hire all these people well, all of a sudden it's become a lot more competitive. So to get that job, you're gonna have to do more. Like you're gonna need a good resume, you're gonna need education, and you're gonna need some kind of experience. And you need to figure out how to get that if that's what you're looking for. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of go on the record and tell you, look, if you're sending me private messages, I'm probably just going to share this video with you and tell you to look at it. Like, this is my advice. I haven't done any of the boot camps. I can't tell you if they're good or not. I can tell you I've got some friends at some of them that seem pretty good. Some of the other ones, I've heard some stories about some. I can't verify whether that information is true or not. Like, you got to look online and determine if it is or not. Like, I can't do that, and I won't do that. I can just tell you what I think is good or not good. Like I can tell you ways to get in the field and not, but like I'm not telling you specifically like go to this boot camp or not. Just do your research. Look up who's teaching it, see their experience, make sure they have the kind of experience that you want to get yourself. That's it. It's really that simple. Look at the cost, like figure out, is the cost worth what I'm going to get out of it? I know there are some free boot camps out there. Like that's what I tell you to look at, like free stuff, because if you're going to pay for something, just pay for a actual certificate that's going to count on your resume. Like free boot camp, paid certificate kind of thing. Like that's what I would do. I'd also, as I said, LinkedIn Learning's okay. There are YouTube videos out there. I've got a bunch on Articulate and Captivate. A bunch of other people do too. Heck, go to Articulate has videos on Articulate. Like you can learn from them for free how to use the software. And it's super simple. I could teach my 12-year-old to use Articulate in 2 hours and start developing e-learning. It's not a difficult piece of software. And I'd also be very hesitant to base my career on like a piece of e-learning software like that, because I guarantee in like 3 years, there's going to be AI developing that software. It's already coming. I've seen betas of it. Like it's coming quick. So I'd feel a little nervous about that. But also, realize e-learning and instructional design are not the same thing. They're just, e-learning is one small piece of it. But those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear what other people think about ID boot camps. It's not my topic, not my area of interest, not my area of expertise, not a topic I even care to research at all. I just see stuff online and I keep getting asked about it. So I had to somewhat